Hello, we are live. Hi everyone, Julia here. We are live. I'm just going to make sure that the broadcast is going out okay and give people a chance to join. Because as you know, it's 8 o'clock here, but it could be 7:55 for somebody else or 8:05 for somebody else. So we just give people a few more minutes to join and then I'll jump straight in to the content. So I'm looking away because I've got my tab on the other side just to see how the questions and everything's coming through. And if you can only hear me and not see me, refresh your screen. And if you can hear me and see me, do type hello in the chat box just below the video. So you should be on juliabernardthompson.com/watch to be able to ask questions and get coached live on the call. Sorry, just give me 2 minutes. And we'll make sure that it's all right. Cool, I can see Jane saying hello. Hello, Jane. I'll see if a few more people will join. I know some people said that they were going to watch the recording, so we'll still give it a few minutes. And then I shall dive straight in. I've got quite a few people who are new to me who've signed up, which is brilliant. And if we have a full house, we'll end up with about 50. So we'll see how it goes. So I'll just give it a few more minutes. I'm now saying 8:03. And like I said, if you can see me and hear me, there's a chat box just below the video. Do type hello so that I know that you can see me and hear me okay. If at any point in time the audio goes or the video goes, just refresh your screen. Usually that does it. I will say that I did have internet problems today, so I'm crossing everything that it all goes to plan. If it doesn't, if it cuts out or anything for that reason on my end, I'll record it and I'll just have to send it out. But this is going out live. So I'm just gonna check one last time. The technology is working on my side. I've got my tab. So if you see me looking away, I'm looking at my tab and my notes. And yeah, it seems as if it's broadcasting fine. Just give it another second. There's always a little bit of a delay. Now, I'm setting a challenge right at the start. If you ask a question or make a comment below and you decide not to sign in so that I don't know who's there, then if you're on a webinar about speaking and you're afraid to show up online, then we need to have a serious conversation. So the first step is to show up here so that people know who you are, know what you're about, they can see your questions. It's a safe space to share because, hey, if you want to find out about speaking, which is going to be you in front of a room of people, then let's start by you feeling courageous enough to log in as yourself so I can talk to you properly, I can see who's here, and I can acknowledge you for being here. So do log in and try not to use the guest function for the chat box so that I can say hello properly. And I can see Anne and Christine, and there is a mystery guest person. I don't know who that mystery guest person is. And we've got Helen, and I said hello to Jane, and I can see more people joining, which is fabulous. So whoever that mystery guest person is, I challenge you. Or is that you, Christine? Were you the mystery guest? Okay, cool. So we're gonna dive in to the training. How would you like it if every time you got on stage, I say on stage, but got in front of a room, whether you're at a networking event, you're speaking at a trade show, and you knew that at the end of that half an hour, at the end of that hour, you are going to have anywhere from 3 to 5, sometimes up to 10K in sales. And you knew that would happen time and time and time and time again just by creating one piece of content. So over the next hour or so, I'm going to show you how to do just that, how to create a talk, how to present yourself in such a way that by the time you finish speaking, you've got people queuing up to work with you, practically demanding that they have to work with you at your highest level package. So this is not people wanting to buy your £99 e-course. People who want to work with you on your highest level package, £1,000, £2,000, £5,000, whatever your highest level is, and to have PayPal payments in full waiting for you in your account by the time you get home. Now, that is pretty much what I'm going to show you how to achieve by the end of this 60 minutes. So I've got loads of content and I have nothing to sell at the end of this call. So it's not one of these poorly disguised sales pitches. People who know me on the call know that if I'm on a sales call, I'm on a sales call. This is training. We'll give you an opportunity at the end to connect with me for a one-on-one conversation. If you think that speaking is something that you want to add to your business, or if you're already speaking and not getting the results that you want, so I can help you troubleshoot, figure out where you're going wrong, so that you can get the results that you want. But I'm also going to ask you to save your questions to the end so that I can get through the content. And it means then that you stay on till the end. There'll be chance for you to get your questions answered. I will stay on, even if it's past, 9 o'clock, I will stay on and answer all the questions. So you get an opportunity to get a bit of private coaching, either about your talk, about anything I've spoken about. Now, a few people have been emailing to ask if the early bird for my 10K speaker program is still available. That early bird shut 2 weeks ago, which is why I'm saying I'm not telling anything because the early bird is finished. But people have been asking if I'm going to talk about that on this webinar, and I hadn't planned to. But what I will say is if you have been looking at that and you do want to ask me a question, you can post it in the chat box and I will answer it here, or be sure to use the link that I share with you near the end to book a call with me if it is that you had a question. I thought I'd just address it now rather than answering the same thing in an email like 10 times. So that's what's going to happen. I do have notes. You're going to be staring at my lovely face. I put eyeshadow on especially and lippy. So you're going to be staring at my lovely face for the next 60 minutes. I don't usually teach or train with slides because I think it's more important for us to really engage and for you to really be present and get to know me, and I get to know you by your questions, and really to get the absolute most out of the time we spend together. So you're not going to have to worry about death by PowerPoint. You might have a few inappropriate jokes or comments like that. So that's what to expect for the next hour or so. A lot of the times people ask me why I do this, why I teach about speaking. And the thing is, this training this evening is for people in one of three camps. It's either you kind of are secretly thinking, you know what, I could totally rock speaking, and you really want to add it to your business as an income stream. You know full well that you can add 3, 5, 10K every time you talk. You're a confident speaker. You just want to know how to structure a talk that sells. Perfectly appropriate place for you to be. You're definitely in the right place. You're also in the right place if you are already speaking, but you're not making those sales. You do a really good talk and people come up after you and go, that was a really nice talk, the kind I mean, and they don't buy squat. And that's frustrating you because, hey, at the end of the day, as much as you like sharing your expertise, you want to be paid for it, quite rightly so. And the third person this call is for people who are totally at the start of their business journey, and that the online stuff is good. I will talk about online versus speaking as we go on. The online stuff is good, it has its place, but you want to start speaking now So you can have money coming in straight away. And it means that while the online stuff is picking up pace, because we know that online doesn't happen overnight, you still have money coming in that you can even use that money to fund the online growth and make that happen quicker. So it's like you're building your authority and making money at the same time. So that's the three kind of people that this call is for. And if you fall outside of that category and you still want to stay with us, you are more than welcome to. Okay, so why am I doing this? I'm not going to bore you with a whole long, drawn out story that, my dog died and I was homeless and I ended up on the street. I know a lot of speakers go into all of this drama story about how they came to be doing what they're doing. And in truth, I don't have a story like that. Back in the day, I actually used to say in a previous life, until I started working with clients who dealt with past lives and they thought that I meant past life. So I had to change that and say back in the day. I have fabulous clients. They give me an education, I tell you. So back in the day, I had a corporate job. I have a master's in forensic science. Yes, the forensic science that you poke around with dead people. And after doing all of that studies, I thought I actually don't want to poke around with dead people. So I got a really nice, cushy corporate job. And what I did was I call it profiling, but in a corporate sense. So, when you're watching those detective films, how they create a profile of the suspect and then they know kind of what they're looking for to help them narrow down the clues. And then it means that they kind of structure and follow the clues to get the end result. That's what I did in a corporate environment. So I looked at buying trends, why people bought, how much they spent on different times of the year, on different types of products. I looked at my company's competitors, and then I fed that information back to the marketing department so that the marketing department knew what to sell, when to sell it, how much to charge, market fluctuations and all that kind of thing, which is quite handy for my clients because it means that when I look at their business, I help them follow the clues, which is why they get the results that they get. And some of them go from charging £60 to £600 to £1,200 to £5,000, all in a matter of 90 days. So now I tend to work with entrepreneurs who want to double, most times triple their monthly income in 90 days. And I do that in various ways, from working with them intensely for a day in a VIP day to over a 4-month period of time. And I've pretty much done that for the last 3 to 4 years in my business. So I actually started speaking when I wanted to transition from one business to another. And I really knew that first of all, I didn't want to take a cut in salary. And I wanted to get results quickly. I am a bit impatient. I like fast results. A bit impatient is probably an understatement. When it comes to making money, I like to make a lot of money in a short period of time, which is how I've structured my business, which is how I help my clients to structure their business. And I don't think anything is wrong with making money with integrity. So if you want to sell your granny and will do anything to make a quick buck, we probably won't get on. But if you want to really set up your business in such a way that it brings in the money that you want quickly, and you want to offer high-end packages, you want to sell high-end packages, that is what I help my clients focus on. So I was making the swap. I had already had a 6-figure business, and I was making the swap from that business to totally focus on coaching and training. And I had absolutely no coaching and training clients, and I needed to fill my business quickly. So in the first 3 months of making that swap, I spoke to more than 68 people. So I ended up having 68 new clients in 3 months. And I filled my business for the first 12 months with high-end coaching clients. So my initial packages were 3 to 5K mark. Those were my sales. And I did that consistently over the first 12 months of making the swap from my other business into coaching and training. That's my story. That's why I know that speaking works. It's why I'm such a huge fan of speaking. It helps you really position yourself and become an authority in your space in a fraction of the time that it takes online. And it also helps to give you the confidence that, you know what, you can actually make that money. There's nothing better than seeing that money coming into your account, and it just validates what you're doing. And I call it the absolute ultimate form of marketing, especially when it comes to high-end sales. So I'm gonna take a sip of water. Okay, so that's the little bit of the background. And I'm running this training because I'm a bit fed up, and I get really agitated when I see women taking so long to make money in their business. And I don't really know any other way to say that, because that's how I feel. A lot of the times you get taught to focus on list building and your branding and creating a sales funnel and having the whole, low end thing, and you sell people into a low end thing, and then you enroll them into something higher, and then you enroll them into something higher. But by the time you take to do all of those things, I've seen so many women get exhausted, burn themselves out, and run out of money. And that's not a good thing. So that's why I'm such an advocate for, one, creating a high-end business model where you sell high ticket, probably one-to-one, depending on your business, services first. You have that steady cash flow coming in. And speaking is a core part of how I teach my clients to market and sell those high ticket services quickly and easily. And it means that you build a list at the same time. And I will go into that later on. So let's just talk a little bit about how speaking compares to other forms of marketing. So I'm going to use Facebook because I know that some of you might have even connected with me via Facebook. So it works. I have to admit that I probably shouldn't admit, but I'm going to say it anyway. I'm halfway there. I have a love-hate relationship with marketing on Facebook. Like I said at the start, I'm a little bit impatient, and I like to make money quickly, and I like my clients to make money quickly. Facebook and online marketing doesn't always lend itself to quick high-ticket sales. Now, I'm going to explain why I say that. With online marketing, it's a different trajectory. If at any point in time you cannot understand my accent, because I am from Trinidad, my husband is from Northern Ireland, I've lived in the UK and Northern Ireland, the accent sometimes goes a little bit all over the place. And when I get excited, it goes completely Trinidadian. So if at any time you can't understand, then I apologize. Sort of shout mango tree in the chat box. And if I see mango tree popping up in the chat box, I know that I need to slow down. But I'll make a concerted effort to slow down so you understand me. Okay, so let's talk about engagement versus authority and how speaking really helps you raise your authority more than online marketing. So online marketing, you go from engagement, then you get you build the trust, then you take people into, you are an expert in such and such area because they've seen you commenting in the groups. Then you get to the authority stage where a few people will start opting in via your website because they've seen you commenting in the groups. And then once they've joined your list, they can get your freebie. Then you build more trust, and then you can offer them either a consultation with you, complimentary call, whatever that leads to a sale. Do you see how extended that process is? Depending on what you're selling, that process can take anything from 30 to 90 days. So that's 30 to 90 days, and you've not made a penny. You've just been building a relationship, 3 months. Don't know about you, 3 months seems a bit painful to me. Whereas with speaking, you go straight in at authority. You're in front of the room, you've got a captive audience, they're listening to what you're saying. You immediately become a position of authority and the expert. So you are the authority on your subject because you're speaking on that in that moment. You're the expert in the room. You've got the front of the room. And the talk that you're giving allows you to demonstrate your expertise there and then. So it builds the trust factor like that. People can see you and you know what it's like. You can sit and listen to a speaker and just go, I get that, I get her, I like them instantly. As well as you can sit and listen to somebody and go, not so sure. So right away, you're able to make a decision. Whereas online, it takes longer because people have to check you out. You can say anything online. How are people going to find out the truth? Which is how the know, like, and trust factor can take up to 3 months to happen online. Whereas in speaking, you're there in the room. People, to it's kind of like they get a vibe that you know what you're on about. I've had clients say to me, I just know. Oftentimes people will buy something and say, something in your voice, Julia, I just have to work with you. It's that instant connection. My clients get it as well. Oh, I don't know what it was, but I just have to work with you. And this is not have to work with you and buy something £99. This is have to work with you and buy my 5K program. So, hey, it works. But it works because you've got that instant trust. You've got know, like, and trust in like 60 minutes instead of know, like, and trust over 90 days. And once you've built that trust and you've demonstrated your expertise, you can go straight from that point to the sale, which is what happens at the end of the talk. So I'll go through that again. You demonstrate your authority. You claim your expert status. You demonstrate that expertise during your talk, and then it means that you've created that trust almost immediately, and you can invite someone into a sale. So that is the difference between online marketing and marketing via speaking, which is why I call speaking the ultimate sales and marketing tool. Because, excuse me, I don't really know of any other form of marketing when it comes to wanting to get high level, high ticket services in front of your ideal client that works as good. And I did promise to share how I made £7,050 in one day, speaking at local networking events, and I will share that. But I want you to see the mechanics of how speaking works. And this is not a case of if you follow my system, it will work. This is a case of you get to tailor this system to make it work in your business. Because my qualifications are scientific, I like methodology and I like formulas and I like systems. But the thing with formulas is you get to create the elements that you need along the way to make it work. And systems work the same way. You can combine the parts in order to get the end result. But this is one of those ones that allows so much flexibility. All you have to do is plug in where you are. If you're just starting out as a speaker, you pick one topic, you go with that for the next 3 months. If you're further down the road, you may have several topics that you speak on. So it works for pretty much every single business model. Now, I'll tell you when the format is different. What I'm going to teach you is about speaking to sell high ticket services. This is a completely different format to doing keynote speeches and doing like one-day workshops. Keynotes are when, like most times, you get paid to speak. So it needs to be inspirational. Yes, it will demonstrate your expertise, but there's no sale coming at the end. Completely different format. That's not what we're going to cover today. As well as if you're running a workshop, then you obviously have to go into detail in your steps because that's what people are in the room for. Again, it's a different format. Now, speaking to sell means that you are presenting a talk that is directly related to your high ticket product. So it's like all roads lead to Rome. Every step of your talk is positioned in such a way that the only result, the only option people have at the end is to buy your service or just, suffer in silence. I'm exaggerating, but you know what I mean. It's either they buy your service or they continue to struggle with whatever it is they're struggling with because your service is presented as the ultimate solution to their problem. Okay? So I've explained why speaking works in terms of authority and expertise. So now I'm going to start going into the points that I promised. So I promised that I would look at what to say in the first 5 minutes to practically guarantee sales at the end of your talk. Why sharing your rags to riches story and transformational story can put people off buying. I've seen it so many times. And how to sign up more clients in the week after your talk and create a waiting list. And most importantly, why some of the best speakers don't actually make any sales at the end of their talk. And I've had some questions come in already, which I hinted at in your emails, and I will answer. You know, how much can you really make speaking for free? Isn't it better to get paid keynotes? And do you have to speak in front of big audiences to make money? And how do you get booked to speak if nobody knows you? Which I think is the biggest question of the day. I just need to have a sip. So, like I said, type your questions and comments in the box below the video, and I will take the questions at the end, and you'll have an opportunity to have some live coaching with me if that's what you want before we finish for today. Okay, so the first thing is what to say in the first 5 minutes to practically guarantee sales at the end of your talk. A lot of people, you've probably experienced this, they stand up. I'd like to thank, it's like the Academy Awards speech. I would like to thank the Academy. I'd like to thank Mary for having me. Oh, what a great room. Oh, aren't you all a lovely crowd? Blah, 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 blah. Your audience is half asleep by the time you get into the talk. In the first 5 minutes, you need to get their attention, which the attentive ones of you would have realized I did that at the start of this talk. So I opened with, how good would it be that you knew every time you stood up to speak, either for an hour or half an hour, you left with 3, 5, 10K sales and clients. You need to get your audience's attention immediately. If you lose them in that first 5 minutes, it's like just go home straight away. All of this thanking people, oh, what a lovely room, cracking a joke, woo, isn't this exciting? You know, all that nonsense that you see sometimes at conferences. It doesn't equate to sales. If you're the third person speaking at a conference and the 2 people before have gone, oh my gosh, isn't this lovely, woo, woo, woo. What happens by the time they get to you? The audience is fed up. They're fed up of all of the rah-rah cheering. They want to know what you promised to give them. So open with, how would you like to know how to blah, 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 your solution? How would you like to know how to lose 10 pounds, especially if you don't like to exercise? That sounds great. Show of hands. Boom, you're there. You see the difference. You will get your audience's attention. And once you get their attention in the first 5 minutes, it almost guarantees, I can't say it does guarantee because there's always one, who will say, but Julia, it didn't work for me. So it practically guarantees that you're going to get sales at the end of your talk because the audience is listening to hear you deliver on that promise at the end. So you got their attention for the whole time just by that opener. It also serves to position the rest of your talk. So they know, okay, this woman is going to talk to me about blah, blah, blah. This bloke, he knows his stuff about how to pay less tax come the end of the financial year. So yeah, I'm listening. And you see them, pens poised, they're ready to take notes. I promise you, it works like a charm. So that's what to say in the first 5 minutes. How would you like to know how to, and whatever your big result is? Works like a charm. I challenge you to try it and not get a sale. And tell me nicely, but I've never actually had a client who didn't do that, who did that and didn't get a sale. So the other thing we're going to look at is why sharing your rags to riches personal transformation story. It's like you read in the book Rich Dad, Poor Dad, he ended up living in the car, and everybody's like, oh my God, he lived in a car, and look, he's got millions now. But do you really want people to identify with you at your lowest and at your worst or at your best? Now, understand what I'm saying. I'm not saying blah, 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 you're the greatest. Because let's face it, everybody has had that pivotal moment that made you think, you know what, I can't do this anymore. That turned you from what you were experiencing to the success that you've achieved today. That is the bit that you want to share. Now, I didn't bore you and go, oh, well, you know what? My first business, it did this, it did that. No. The reason is if you're selling high ticket, you want to connect with the people who have already gone through the, living in my car bit and who are on a trajectory to change. And this is why I say sharing that rags to riches story can put people off. Because what could end up happening is you get the person in the room with no money, God bless them. We've all had shit days, pardon my French, when our bank accounts had a scary number in it or not in it, as the case might be. But when you share that story of, oh my gosh, do you know what? You always get that one person who comes and goes, do you know what? I so identified with where you were when you said that you were living in the car. I'm right there now, and it gives me such hope. You know what I mean? Like, that's not what you're there for. You're there to close sales. So share the bit of the story that demonstrates what's in it for them. Share your qualifications, what's in it for them. I shared with you that I have a master's in forensic science. I didn't say it and sound like an idiot. I explained how having that qualification helps my clients. That's it. There's no need to list all of your degrees and PhDs and qualifications and the MBAs unless all of those things help the clients that are in the room. Make sense? Because otherwise you just end up sounding like a brat, to be quite honest. There is absolutely no other way for me to say that, and it puts people off. How many times have you been to a conference where the person has started giving their personal story and you've checked out because you're like, I have heard a version of this story a million times before. Just give me the goods. Tell me how this story is going to help me. That's all you need to do. If it is that you did end up sleeping in a car, and sleeping in the car is a core part of, well, I can help you go from X to X because I have slept in a car, then include it. If you think you're just going for the sympathy vote, all you're going to do is attract clients who don't have any money to work with you. And that is not the purpose of this sales talk. This sales talk is to attract high paying clients who are ready to enroll in your high end services. So that's why that does not work. Okay. And the next bit is how to sign up even more clients in the week following your talk and create a waiting list. I'll tell you, this is part of the story of how I made that £7,050 in one day. And I actually I'll give you the full story, but the bit that's relevant right now is when I made those sales, I actually sold something that I hadn't tried on selling. I promise I will explain. So this is the power of a talk that sells, not a talk that inspires. I had just mentioned a 6-week program that I was thinking about running, and I ended up, it was genuinely, I'm thinking about it. I didn't even have the full thing mapped out. I kind of loosely had it mapped out. And I said to people, if you're interested, let's book a chance to talk. And by the time I got to the back of the room, I didn't have people who were just interested. People were like, how much is it? And will literally get in my PayPal details and paying me straight away. I promise I will tell you how that works. Now, the thing is, to sign up more clients in the week after, you need to get people's emails. You need to get people's email addresses, but not in a sign up for my list cheesy way. What I suggest is that you offer a recording, a resource that directly relates, one, to your talk, and two, to your high ticket package. So I actually have a pre-recorded version of my talk because I've done it in a webinar format before. I've done it in all sorts of formats before, and I have a recorded version. So I let people know right at the start, you can get a recording of this if you want to listen to it again. And I leave a list at the back of the room with my assistant or whoever's looking after, the table or whatever it is that day. so that people can sign up to get the recording of the talk. It's a useful incentive. A lot of people are thinkers. They want to go home and look at the notes and just digest. Sometimes people have to move money around to work with you. Sometimes people have to speak to a spouse to work with you. It's not that they're asking permission, but if your fee is 10K and that money's in a joint bank account, then obviously they're going to have to say to their partner, I want to do this program. I need to take 10K out the joint bank account. What do you think? And I've actually had husbands paid for wives to do my programs because they've seen that recorded video and they've gone like, oh, she seems nice, or she seems to know what she's talking about. Or it means then that the person has something tangible to show afterwards. So it's a win-win situation. And whether or not they sign up in that moment, a lot of the times a week later, after they've listened to it again and the message has sunk in, they email you and go, you know what, is it too late to take up that offer? I'd like to sign up. And by then it's just like a 10-15 minute phone call. Okay, let's have a call. Let's just make sure that the program is right for you, kind of thing. And when I actually had that big payday, it was actually a 20-minute gig. So I sold that in about 20 minutes, believe it or not. And it was one of those scenarios where people messaged me afterwards and said, can I sign up? And then I ended up having a wait list for the following month from a program that, like I said, wasn't particularly ready when I made the offer. So that's how the structure of it works. And now I'm going to go into the detail of how I actually generated those sales, because everybody's like, Julia, just tell me how you made the sales. I am going to tell you. So how you get to work this in your business. This is the thing. I like to say how I did it, but I'm going to break it down each step so you can apply it in your business. The first thing is your talk title needs to directly relate to the result of your high-end program. At the time, I was just about to pilot a program called Sales Confidence. Actually, no, I lie. It was called the Premium Solution. I changed it to Sales Confidence when I actually ran it again. So it was called the Premium Solution, and it was a 6-week group program for coaches and therapists who wanted to add their first £1,000 product to their business. So they wanted to create their first high ticket program. And I took them through that process in 6 weeks as a group to create, market, and sell it. Now, I very casually mentioned this because, to be honest, I very rarely really run group programs, and I wanted to see if there was any sort of appetite for it before I went into creating the whole program. I gave people the option to sign up for the group program or to tell me they were interested in the group program, which was, I won't even tell you how much it was. It was less than £1,000. And what happened instead was I had people waiting who said, I don't want to do that program as a group. Can I do it one-to-one? How much will it be? So that's what happened. So it was one of those totally surreal moments. I had spoken for 20 minutes in 2 different places in one day, and I left with 7,050 worth of sales from those talks. And then I had upsells after that and referred business. So if I added it up, I probably got close to the 10K mark in, after sales. So people renewed, some people signed up for my 3-month program as it was at the time. Other people referred their friends into the 6-week program on a one-to-one basis. The truth is, I never actually ran the group program because nobody wanted it. So in that day, I made 7,050 worth of sales. And then if I did all the sums, I more than likely got to just under the 10K mark in not necessarily upsells, but in renewals afterwards and extra business. The other thing was I made it really easy for people to sign up. So that's the other thing. Make it really, really easy for people to sign up to work with you. A lot of speakers teach that you need to get them on a call and you mustn't say the price of the thing and you create interest and all of that. But hey, give your audience, and I think of them as clients because they're working with you in that capacity in the room, a lot of the times people have paid to be in the room. So they're warm leads. They know the value of paying for training. Treat them like clients, even though they haven't signed up to work with you one-to-one. And make it easy for them to sign up to work with you again. So give them the information, tell them the website, tell them the payment plans, tell them when the deadline is. Make it like a one-page sheet for somebody to just fill in their name, their email address, and book a time in your diary there and then. If it is that your program is one where you have to speak to people one-to-one to work with you. There's nothing worse than somebody like, here's my card, and you're like, oh, well, I'll send you a link to the diary. And no, it's like buying a pair of shoes. When you go in the shoe shop and you want your size in that moment, and they say, I'm sorry, but we have to order it and come back in 3 days. Man, it doesn't feel the same way. It's exactly the same. In that case, I literally just had a sign-up sheet at the back of the room, and I said, if you're interested in the group program, put your name and email address, and we'll have a conversation in the week. And I'll send you the brochure when it was finished. I think I had like 2 or 3 brochures with a rough outline of what the program would look like also, and those all went. So if I had 4, I had a lot. And that worked because people were like, I'm there, how can I pay you? And I gave them my PayPal email. And by the time I got home, I had full payments in my PayPal account waiting for me. So, hey, it works. So make it easy for people to pay. And, don't be like, oh, well, if you want to work with me, these are the hoops you have to jump through. Because as you and I both know, there are lots of other service providers, and you kind of want to seem like you value, not like you want to seem, you want people to know that you value them making a decision to work with you. And one of the ways you do that is by making it really easy. And that's pretty much how I did those sales. So my talk title was, I was actually trying to look up the talk title for that day. So my talk title was, I think it was how to triple your monthly income in 90 days or less, working with less clients. And I knew that the room was full of coaches, new coaches, and especially therapists who were charging on a per session basis. So for them, they were like, the only way to make more money is to work with more clients. And that's one of the things with your talk title. It really, really needs to zone in and focus on people's pain point. So my talk title then was how to triple your monthly income in 90 days or less, working with less clients. That working with less clients was like, oh my gosh, I want to know how. And then I explained to them how a high ticket package worked. And then I explained that, I was thinking about launching this group program that would help them create a high ticket offer. And that was it. It was like mass pandemonium. And nobody bought the group, and everybody wanted to work with me one-to-one. So talk title needs to connect with your high ticket offer. Make it easy for people to sign up. I literally had a sheet of paper at the back of the room, and a friend of mine acted as my PA that night, and she booked calls in my diary because I did need to talk to people just to make sure, where they were in their business. Some people were like, I'm paying you, and if you say it's no, then you send me back the money, because they didn't want to lose a spot. So make it easy. That's the other thing. And talk to people who are your ideal client. I recently changed my ideal client profile, and I always say you have a primary ideal client and a secondary ideal client, but make sure that you're talking to a room of your ideal client. It's no point if you talk about weight loss and you look around the table and you know that nobody around that table is even paying attention to weight loss. So find out about your audience before. Which leads me nicely onto, how do I get booked to speak if nobody knows me? Now, if you're wanting keynotes, which this is not about, we established it at the start, then people need to know you. If you want to be paid £2,000, £3,000, £5,000 for keynotes, it takes years. I'm going to be honest and say years to get to that point where you're going to be sought after, and people will be like, here's £2,000, here's £3,000, here's £5,000. Come and speak on my stage. However, doesn't it make more sense if you approach somebody and say, I'm going to speak for free if I can make an offer? They're more likely to let you in front of their audience. Remember, people, quite rightly so, have to be really protective with their audience. And it means then that you can give them a really beautiful speaker profile and examples of your work and testimonials of maybe a workshop that you've run before for yourself. And it gives them that encouragement and that confidence to book you, especially because they know there's no financial risk. And even better, you say to them, look, I'll give you 5%, 10% of whatever I sell on the day. Then there's even a benefit to getting you in front of the room. Because one, they're not paying out any money. And two, they might actually make some money from having you speak. So that is like my top way for you to get booked to speak, even when nobody knows you, because you have enough expertise to approach people and you know how to structure the email or the phone call or however you decide to approach people. My recommendation is email and say, can I come speak at your networking group? I recommend if you're starting, start with local networking groups and then you can grow from there. A lot of the times you start with local networking groups and they then recommend you to other groups who are looking for speakers. And just scale it up from there until you start being approached to speak to people. So the other question I had come in this week was, do you have to speak in front of big audiences to make money? And the answer is a resounding no. On the day when I made that unexpected windfall, both times there were less than 10 people in the room. So it was a small networking, 2 local networking gigs because they were close to each other. I could have jumped in the car and gone between the 2. And there were less than 10 people in the room. And I converted almost 50% both times. And I think the reason why speaking in a small room sometimes works even better for high ticket sales rather than speaking on a big stage at a conference is because a lot of the time, depending on the conference, it can turn into a bit of a pitch fest. And people naturally have their, pardon my French, they kind of have their bullshit meter up. They're like, I don't want to hear it. They're just going to pitch to me again. Whereas in a small networking group, they want to be there. They trust the organizers to bring somebody in who is really going to add value to the meeting. And they feel safer with you. They feel more comfortable. And they don't feel as if they're being pitched at. So smaller groups, in my experience, work better. The other thing is, with anything in business, it's better to cut your teeth on smaller groups before you go and speak on somebody's stage in front of 250 people or 500 people or however many hundred people or thousands of people, because you then have nailed your talk. You can practically give it without even, thinking about it. You don't need slides. You're confident. It shows in your body language. Start with a small networking group and then scale up. The smaller the room when you start, it's actually easier to get those high ticket sales in. And how much can you really make from speaking? Well, that's pretty much the $1 million question, isn't it? A lot of my clients, they create packages anywhere from £1,500 right up to £5,000, a few of them more. When I started using speaking, I was selling 3K and 5K packages, or actually, no, I was selling 10K packages as well, and it worked for that. So let's say that you're selling, conservative guess, your high ticket package is £1,500 or dollars, because I think I have some Americans on the call, and you sell 3. That's £4,500. If your high ticket package is £2,000 and you sell 5, that's 10 grand. Happy day. 10 grand for an hour's work is not to be sniffed at. So it really depends on who you're selling to and what you're selling. But truthfully, the sky is really the limit with speaking. And the thing is, whereas a lot of people are like, oh, I want to be a paid keynote, you stand to make more money when you make an offer, if you speak for free, than when you get paid a fixed keynote fee or expenses. And that's the truth. So my suggestion is start doing the free talks where you can make an offer. And the keynotes will come and take those too. We don't turn down money, but you will make more money when you make an offer as you get more confident than your fixed fee keynote, because there are only a few people in the world who get paid more than £5,000 for a keynote. And that comes after years and years and years of teaching and training. Okay, so I have pretty much covered the content that I had planned. I'm just checking my notes, so my head's down. I'm just going to double check my notes. So if you have been putting in questions, okay, hang on. I'm just going to start looking at your questions now. So I can get to answering them. Okay, let me see if I've got any questions or comments. If you do have questions or comments, put them in the box below. I can see Jane teasing me about being impatient. Jane had the pleasure of coaching me for a short while last year, tail end of last year. So she knows what I'm like when the money isn't coming in as quickly as I want. Now, it's not that I feel as if I need to explain myself here. I like to make it in chunks. I like things to happen like that. That's what I teach my clients to do. And I always feel I need to lead by example. So bless her, she was very patient with me. Question. So yes, Anne has asked, these tips also could be applied to doing webinars. Absolutely. This was one of those cases where I kind of do as I say, but not as I do. I didn't follow the structure exactly on this webinar, Anne, because I really wanted to kind of break down the steps and go into nitty-gritty details. But if you're doing a webinar as part of a launch, absolutely you follow this format. So if it was that, you know, I had said, okay, this was going to be part of a launch for my 10K speaker program, then I would have followed exactly the formula to deliver it. Having said that, once you get the 10K speaker formula, then you can use it anytime that you're making an offer using speech. So definitely on a webinar. Right at the bottom of your screen, you have a link to download, which I promised people who were joining live, you would get that Anatomy of a 10K talk, and the link is live now. So at the end, you know, do download it immediately at the end of the training, because I am going to take it off the replay screen. So that's your bonus for making the effort for joining live. Question from Hazel. Can you give an example of making an offer? So you would say something, actually, Hazel, this is in the Anatomy of a 10K talk, you will be pleased to know. It's number 8, where it says, oh, good thing I printed it out here. It's number 8, where it says transition to the sale. And you can say something like, for years, I've been perfecting this information, doing everything that I possibly can to make it simple for you to implement into your life right away. Da, 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 da. So you kind of bridge to what you've done, how it's relevant, and what you're going to offer people to do. So I've included it in that Anatomy of a 10K talk for you. Yes, if you click on the link now, it will take you out of the training. So click it. That's what I said. Download it once we're off air and the training is finished. Download it immediately. Then I will be taking it off before I send the replay link out. So if you miss it tonight, then you don't get your reward for joining live. So Helen has asked, what is the shortest length of talk you can do to be able to effectively make a sale? Helen, I used to say an hour. I will stick to saying an hour. Having said that, I did 2 talks of 20 minutes each and then made just under just over 7 grand. So that put paid to that. But I think that's because I do speak regularly. It's my main form of marketing. I think an hour is best. 45 minutes to an hour is really, really best, because then you can really go through all the steps properly and you don't feel rushed. Because I talk, because I talk all the time. I know that sounds funny to some of you that know me, but because I speak often for marketing, I have the formula down and I know how to condense my talk and still kind of hit the points of connection and story and all of those things that still drive the sale. But 45 minutes to an hour is really, really ideal. Any more questions or comments? What I will say is, if you are thinking of adding speaking to your marketing repertoire, I highly recommend it. I am offering you a chance to have a strategy session with me, so that we can have a conversation and see how best you can incorporate speaking. If you're worried if there's a market for your topic, we can talk about that. If you are worried about finding opportunities to speak, we'll talk about that. And I promise that you will leave the call knowing whether speaking will work for you or not. It's also an opportunity, if you've been having a look at the 10K speaker program, you can ask me questions there and then, or we can fix another time, but that's not really the priority of the call. It's really to help you get set up for adding speaking as a marketing tool in your business so that you can get the results that you want. Do I recommend having a signature talk? Absolutely. That is one of the things that I teach my clients to do. It's one core piece of marketing, that sells for you time and time and time again. So you absolutely need to have a signature talk. And one of the things I'd suggest is, if you, when this is over, have a link to my speaker page, you'll see that I actually have my signature talk title on there. I change it up from time to time, because sometimes I'll talk on different things depending on what I'm launching. And I want people to see what's current for that period. So you definitely need to have a signature talk. One talk will sell for you time and time and time again. And it also means that you become known for one thing, and it makes it easier then for event organizers to actually start contacting you, rather than you constantly having to go out and look for the gigs. Any more questions or comments? They take a little while to come through. Sorry, just gonna have a drink. I will stay on for as long as, but if people need to go, just remember to download the Anatomy of a 10K talk before it disappears off of the replay page. And if you want to have a call with me to discuss speaking, there is a link to get a complimentary strategy session with me in that document as well. And I will send it out I'll send out the link on the replay so you have it. You're welcome, Anne. Okay, so we're just at 9 o'clock, and I'll do one last check and make sure there are no questions. Hang on, it's taking a while to refresh. Okay, cool. So thank you all so much for joining me tonight. I know that you can now download that PDF, you can plug it into your business, and of course, I'm more than happy to help you implement that as well going forward. But there was definitely enough content on the call tonight for you to be able to know if speaking is something that you want to do or not. I wish everybody would do it, because it just helps you make the money that you want so much quicker, and then you can use that money to fund other things. So if there are no more questions coming in, thank you so much for joining me, and I will wish you a fond adieu and good night, and we'll talk again soon. Bye.